What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean, and we are back for the return of the Man United News Roundup. You guys know usually when there's a lot of fixtures going on, usually when it's transfer windows and stuff, a lot of that kind of takes over. There's not a whole lot of time in between, but like yesterday's stream, if you guys haven't went and checked that out, go ahead and do that. When there's time in between fixtures, I like to make time to chat with you guys about what's going on. So we have a few things to discuss today as we talk about some of the latest and greatest transfer news that dominates the headlines, is because it is United and that's just what we do. Not going to be too long of a stream, but want to get your thoughts anyway. So we're going to talk today about Casemiro. We're going to talk about Nypan. We're going to talk about Sancho, because I know we're probably not all that interested in it, but we're going to talk about it anyway, mostly because I want your thoughts. So like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are on the road to 3K, so you absolute legends got us to 2K very, very quickly. I think that we can definitely get to 3K. Maybe by the next January transfer window. Let's shoot for that target. Hit the bell, too, to make sure you guys don't miss out on any content. Danny, good morning, my friend. I know you probably got some thoughts on stuff. So anybody watch the Super Bowl last night? I completely forgot it was a Super Bowl. Clearly, you can tell I don't watch the NFL anymore. I love the NFL. I'm a big Patriots fan. Because Tom Brady went to school, went to college about 20 minutes from where I live. But I just can't watch it anymore. It's too many commercials, too many breaks. 60-minute game, it takes like 3 hours. I can't hang with it. So it is what it is. Danny says, take Casemiro, give us Pablo, Lucio, and Wesley Franca. Yeah, we were linked with Wesley Franca last week, the young right back for Flamenco. So, but yeah, let me know if anybody watched Super Bowl. Were there any good commercials, any good trailers? Usually I'm only interested in movie trailers, but I can watch those the next day online. So there was a funny commercial for Stella Artois with David Beckham and Matt Damon, though. So let's get stuck in with the news, though. That's why we're here. So let's get the dumb shit, the annoying shit. Let's get all that out of the way first and foremost. Danny says, you watch the halftime show for the wife and then turn. I don't even know. Yeah, I can't be bothered with it anymore. I love football. I love playing football. I love throwing the rock. Again, too many commercials. Literally every play, it's a half second of a play and then it's a commercial break, and it's just the worst. I can't handle it. But let's get through this negative, annoying shit. So we got shots fired from Jadon Sancho yesterday. If you guys haven't yet seen it, again, I don't have Instagram, so I just saw this randomly on Twitter. So let's paint the picture here. So Marcus Rashford obviously went on loan at Aston Villa. Started on the bench in Villa's FA Cup match against Spurs yesterday. Came on as a sub with half hour to go. And Spurs obviously won. Villa obviously won because boomerang Bielsa. Gonna boomerang Bielsa, right? I don't know how. I'm surprised we haven't seen any news this morning that Ange has been sacked. But as far as Rashford goes, he didn't really do much. But it was apparent how Unai Emery kind of sees him in that system. He's kind of taking over directly for John Duran, playing as a striker. Basically, he's got the number 9 shirt. After the match, Rashford took to Instagram to thank Villa fans for their warm welcome, because that's, what you do. I get it. But then a certain soon-to-be ex-Manchester United flop decided he wanted to chime in and throw some shade. So you guys have probably seen some of this. So pictures from the BBC. But obviously Rashford said, thank you for the warm welcome. Great team performance. But then Sancho decided he wanted to go ahead and chime in and say freedom. I just don't get it. Maybe I'm just old, but I just don't get the social media shade. Like, what is the point? And we know this is Sancho's MO. We know that Sancho literally has no bollocks to say anything face to face. It's always social media. It's no matter what, whether it's Ten Hag, whether it's Dortmund, whether it's this now, it is always social media with him. It's freaking annoying. The guy is literally just stirring up shit to stay relevant, because it's always 6 degrees of United to stay relevant. That's how we roll. Because he's been in the mud. His career has literally been in the mud since he threw his little temper tantrum at Eric Ten Hag. That just is what it is. But what are your thoughts on this? Danny says, it's disgraceful. I looked before halftime. There was 2 minutes left to play, and I said to the wife, give it 5 minutes. We switch over to halftime show. Guess what? It took 30 minutes before it ended. Yeah, NFL, man. If I could just go back and watch a game and have a setting where I could remove all the commercials, I would do that all day because I like watching NFL. I like football. I just maybe I've got ADD. I don't know. I just can't handle that. What are your thoughts on the Sancho stuff? I think personally, I think it's immature. I think it's petty. I think it's just another example of the attitude issues, the personality issues that caused Sancho basically to flop at United and arguably flop in the Premier League. The guy literally doesn't have the bollocks to handle it on the pitch and clearly doesn't have the bollocks to do it off the pitch. The guy has no self-awareness. He's got no humility to just look in the mirror and maybe see what are the areas that he can improve on, both as a player and maybe even as a person in some ways. He's a grown man who uses social media to whine and take digs and play the scapegoat card. He's done this for years now. So Danny says, I tried to ban Rashford news on Rich Channel to the summer. Well, this is obviously covering the news, so we're talking about it this morning. But, on Sancho, whatever it is, he's Chelsea's headache now. He's not our headache anymore, so they're stuck with him. They're paying $25 million for him at the end of the season. We've already got a little bit of money from Dortmund for him last year because they did go to the Champions League final. Chelsea obviously got a little bit too, so we're fine. We probably are going to make back maybe between 30 35 million on Sancho, which obviously is a loss in the long run, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. Big up, Darko. Good to see you again, my friend. How are you doing this morning? Darko, did you watch the Super Bowl at all? Let us know. Let us know your thoughts on Sancho's little social media dig, because we're going to move on now because I'm done giving Sancho airtime. Moving on. So a recent Man United transfer target has given has spoken about interest from other clubs, spoken about his potential move this January, the tour he went on. He did take a January tour to visit a lot of Premier League clubs and discuss his future and explore his options. I am, of course, talking about 18-year-old Rosenborg midfielder Sverre Nypan. We've been linked to him since the summer. Remember we played Rosenborg in preseason. You know how highly I rate this kid. I think he had like 8 goals, 8 assists as a 17-year-old, really, in Rosenborg's season. Their season ended beginning of December. He went on a little tour. He was at the Etihad. He was meeting with Arsenal and whatnot. He's a huge United fan. It's his dream to play for United. Now, a January move didn't happen. We all thought it was going to happen. No matter where he went, we thought he was going to move. He did decide to return to Rosenborg for the time being, for the next 6 months, and then probably make a move in the summer. Now, he recently sat down with Rosenborg media team to discuss all this. And so this... Hold on. Darko says, I'm good, thanks. Football and some cricket only. Gotcha. Good deal. So this is what he had to say speaking with Rosenborg's media team. He says, I've been on a little trip, and I've seen how things are and how they are doing. It has helped me with the thoughts that I've had and the thoughts going forward. I've been quite close to leaving Rosenborg, but we have agreed that being here for the next 6 months is the best thing for me now, and I'm very happy with the choice that I have made. So basically confirming kind of like what we all were reading and what the reports were, that not only was he looking around at clubs, but he's also probably going to end up moving in the summer. I don't want to say he's waiting on his dream move to United because we couldn't afford him in January and he's waiting for that, but I'm just saying he's waiting for United because it's his dream move and we couldn't afford him in January. I'm just saying. But we need to lock this down now. I wish we would have locked it down last summer or this past summer so we could have got him in January. We could have gotten a really good deal there. He's definitely one that you guys know I rate very, very highly. Darko says, I always appreciate Ruud van Nistelrooy for playing Ugarte and Casemiro together. Interesting. We do have some Casemiro news. We'll touch upon that a little later on. But what are you guys' thoughts on that? He's pretty much confirming Nypan that, he was looking for a move. He's thought it was best. He's going to wait till the summer. Is that someone that you'd like United to get? Do you not care? Do you not really know much about him? We've spoken about him so many times this season from the summer onward. I did a special video on him and kind of scouting report on him. He's only gotten better since. So let me know your thoughts. Moving on to another transfer target and another former Ruben Amorim player in the growing list of Ruben former player targets, because that always happens, right? Of course, I'm talking about Giovanni Kenda at Sporting, the young right winger / right wing back. So the links to Kenda popped up almost immediately after Amorim was appointed. along with Victor Gyökeres, along with Gonçalo Inacio, and along with Ousmane Diomande, who reportedly is going to cost only £67 million, according to Fekayes. But I'm going to be honest, I'm sort of done with Fekayes as a source. I don't think that they're super, super, super reliable. So I might not always report on what they have to say just because I'm like, eh. But we'll see. I thought I'd throw it in there just because it was out there. But last week it was heavily reported they were already working on a summer deal for Kenda. That was the main target. Well, he can be pretty cheap. I think it was like 40 some odd million was the price being thrown around. But then we got reports this weekend, mostly from Portuguese outlets, that we had United scouts in attendance to watch Kenda in action on Friday. And then those scouts are also going to be in attendance on Tuesday, tomorrow, to watch Sporting play Dortmund as well. So sounds like we're really trying to run the rule over this, do our due diligence. I think that Amorim probably already knows the players super, super well. Danny's keeping his fingers crossed here. 5-day scouting trip, though. I mean, that's a nice vacation in Lisbon for our scouts, but better not be raising any ticket prices to pay for that scouting trip, Sir Jim. Those guys, I mean, this is what scouts have their own budget. When he would that's what their job is. So, let's see. He is young. He's very, very young. I think that obviously I don't watch Sporting week in, week out. I just don't get the channel they're on, so I really only get to see them when they're in European football. Obviously, a lot of people really rate Kenda. I think that it's always interesting to me how many people are wanting former Ruben Amorim players after they spent 2 years slating Ten Hag for targeting players he knows, but that's a whole separate conversation. But again, what I've said about Kenda is I think he's good. The question is he better than any players that we have in the academy who are similar age? That's the biggest test for me. Like, I wouldn't want us to unnecessarily spend money on a player who is the same age as academy players if they're just as good. So obviously the big plus he has is he's playing first team football regularly. He's playing European football as well. So that is the plus. So it's interesting. Maybe that's a sign that maybe we should start looking at the youngsters a little bit more. Danny says, why would they need to scout someone who Amorim knows inside and out? Well, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. They're not going to be, the manager is not going to be as involved. I mean, at least I don't want to say involved, as in control, I guess. Everyone's going to have a say so. Everyone's going to have a thought. We have to make sure it's not only a good fit for the manager, but it sounds like Ineos want to make sure the players suit what they're looking at. If we're scouting, though, if we're doing all this, then, it probably means that it's a realistic option. But we don't just want to take Amorim's word for it as much as we like Amorim. I mean, we didn't want to make people complain about that with Ten Hag, that these are players he knows and whatnot. Like, we have to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I get it, but Danny says, I prefer Nypan of Kenda as anything over 35, 40. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be different players. I think that Nypan, for me, in this system, the best position I see for Nypan is probably in one of those 10 roles, but I don't know if I trust him enough at this age to play in a deeper role personally, unless we switch up tactics a little bit, like I suggested maybe in yesterday's video. But I do like Nypan a lot. I think he reminds me a lot of like Cherki, someone who is very, very. Nypan's final ball, his creation in the final phase of attack is just so good for his age, and that's something that we desperately, desperately need. I think we're relying a little too much on crosses and squared passes. We need to get some more vertical passes, some more chance created, which would help if we had a little bit more movement as well ahead of these players. But I do like Nypan a lot. That I don't have a problem with Kenda. Again, it's just about priorities and is he better than any of the youngsters that we have currently. So you guys let me know. Maybe you guys watch more Sporting than me. Maybe you guys have like Fubo or something and you guys can watch it. I don't. So moving on to the next item on the list. So United need defenders. I think that we all know that it's pretty much academic right now with Lisandro Martinez's latest ACL injury, keeping him out of action probably until next fall. Lindelof and Evans probably leaving for free in the summer. Maguire probably only sticking around for another year. We need depth in that position. I did that video on Licha replacements. I think you should look at for the left side, good ball players, good mentality. Go check that video when you're done here if you want to look at who I think we should be looking at. But I don't think one defender is enough. We play 3 defenders. It's not enough to just have like 4 or 5. We're going to need like 6 players who could probably come in, maybe 5 who are first team, like starting 11 ready, and then another one like Aiden Heaven who can come in and do some cameos and develop. But I don't think one is enough, and I think it sounds like maybe there's a chance that United feel the same way, because this report's coming from Dean Jones. He claims that United are among several clubs currently tracking Bournemouth center back Dean Howson. So if you guys remember, Juventus player was on loan at Roma, and Juventus ended up selling him. That was a lot of profit for them. Sold him to Bournemouth. Kind of biting them in the ass a little bit because of what's his face's Bremer's injury as well. But he's having a terrific season for the Cherries. He's attracting a lot of attention right now. I was looking at his percentiles on FBref earlier. It's literally all green. The guy is having an amazing, amazing season. Defensive numbers, very good. Progressive carries, progressive passes, very, very good season. I haven't seen any price tags thrown out there. Pearl, big up, Pearl. How are you? Happy New Week. It is a Happy New Week. Thank you. Danny says quality player, Heisen. Yeah, so he plays on the left. He is right-footed, but very good defender. I really like him. Very young, but I think that he's just one of those young defenders who already looks so good for his age. There's a lot of young defenders like that out there right now in football. But we have just been linked with him this morning again from Dean Jones. So thought I'd throw it out there, get your guys' thoughts. I mean, is he the kind of a defender who you think would come in? Would he come in and start? I mean, can't count on Licha. We do need defenders. We do have 3, so there's a little bit of more versatility there in terms of where we can play him. So I think he could be very good. Now, the question is, do we want another young defender? Do we want someone who's maybe a little older, a little more experienced? Do you want to prioritize a left footer to kind of come in and take over for Licha right away? I think that there are options. You can go get someone like Bashali who is available for free. Now, again, there's no such thing as a free signing. But I think Bashali and someone like Hausen you could probably get for like 50, 60 million altogether. That's 2 defenders who I think that is a pretty good summer in my opinion, but we'll see. But interesting. Let me guys know if you guys watched a little more Hausen than I have. I've watched him a little bit more when he was on loan at Roma, and I liked the look of him then. So obviously he's kept it going. But sticking with Bournemouth for a moment, we have also been linked. Who's Danny saying? Danny says, Howson, Murillo, my picks. Yeah, Murillo is going to be expensive, though. I mean, super, super expensive. I think that with a bit of scouting, it's not that I don't rate him. I'm just like, we have to always filter all these targets and everything through the PSR, the finance stuff. So if we can sell Rashford, we'll get some of that Sancho money. If we can sell Anthony, maybe Casemiro, get Casemiro, Eriksson, Lindelof off the books, that will help. I think we are in store for a pretty decent summer. Honestly, we better. Like, the summer window better blow me away personally, but we will see. But yeah, Murillo is going to be expensive, especially if Forest keep flying. And this is why Howson's probably going to be expensive too, because of the fact that Bournemouth are doing so well. It's going to be very difficult to do that. I don't think Bournemouth are going to want to let go of too many of their good players with the run that they're on. So, but on Bournemouth, we've also been linked with Howson's teammate, Antoine Semenyo. The 25-year-old attacker is on fire this season. He's got 9 goals, 4 assists in all comps, which is already more than he had last year total. So he's got just in 10 fewer matches, he's already surpassed what he did last year. So he keeps getting better. So this is coming from journalist Ekram Koner, who claims that United continue to have an interest in Semenyo. And Bournemouth are also going to be listening to offers around 50, 60 million euros for Semenyo right now. To me, he's another in that Mbuemo role, that kind of like wide player who can also play a little more in the channels, gets involved. He's like the Cunhas, like the Delaps. That same player, he's experienced. He's having a really good season. Is he United level, though? Is he someone that's going to move the needle and get us back to, seriously challenging for top 4 finishes? Is he make the difference in cup competitions? You guys let me know. Yeah, Danny says Murillo was another one I watched before Forrest got him. Was pissed. Yeah, it's always that's the dark side of like scouting and having like that interest, Danny, like you and I, like, because you'll see these players and you'll want these players and you'll think and you'll even know on some level they'd be great for us, and then you get so mad when we don't sign them because you're like, that player. I feel it all the time with different players, man. Danny says, great player, bad finisher. Well, his finishing is definitely, if he's a bad finisher and he's already got 9 goals, 4 assists, then, I mean, it's better than a lot of our other attackers right now. But we'll see. I think that if I had to choose, there are probably other players I would want for one of those roles than Semenyo personally. But I just throw it out there. I want to get your guys' thoughts. We're being linked to a lot of attackers right now. Koner actually goes on and claims that we're also monitoring Matteo Retegui at Atalanta, who's also having a good season as well. But I'm not sure how reliable that one is. I mean, obviously same journal, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like whenever somebody has a good match, good performance, or is having a good run of form, like our name just gets thrown out there and linked with him. And it usually starts with someone on like Talksport or some random YouTube channel, whatever, saying like, "Oh man, I love it. I think United could do with this player. I'd love it if we signed him." And then the headline is, United linked with this player. Like just because linked is always the one. This is why I always have to read like. There was a report that came out yesterday. I forget what it was, but the only source, and maybe it was the West Ham. I think it was the West Ham interest in Rasmus Højlund. And you guys are probably thinking like Sean didn't talk about this. It's because he loves Højlund. It's not because he loves Højlund. Because Team Talk's source was Team Talk understands. I can't like in good faith talk about rumors like that when all it is Team Talk understands or sources according to sources. Like I can't. But you guys let me know what you think. I want to go on to a potential exit. Hit that like button for me if you haven't yet, because there's a chance that perhaps that Casemiro could still leave the club before the summer. We saw links to Besiktas last weekend. We know the Turkish window was going a little longer, but now he could be set for a move to Brazil. Now, this is coming from journalist Jorge Nicola, who claims that Flamengo are exploring a deal for Casemiro. Now, allegedly, United have agreed to loan him out and cover a big portion of his salary. Sounds like the plan for Casemiro is get him out of here. We know that Sir Jim was not a fan of that signing of someone, 28, 29, long contract, big wages. It was just 3 strikes of what not to do in the transfer market. And we did it. And, it is what it is. This was done before he got here. Nicola also reminds us that the Brazilian transfer window is still active until the end of the month. So lots of time for Casemiro to go to the Brazilian league if he wants to. Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with Casemiro leaving? Because if let's say he does leave, that leaves us with Kobe, Ugarte, Collier, Eriksson maybe, and Bruno is potentially our midfield options. And really that leaves us with like 3 natural players who kind of play in that 8-6 role. Again, Bruno's kind of been shoehorned there. Eriksson plays every now and then, but he's definitely not a Casemiro. Bruno is not a Casemiro. The only 2 that you say come close to what Casemiro does are like Ugarte and Collier. Maybe Bruno and Eriksson in the sense of Casemiro's passing, but other than that, that leaves us a little bit light in midfield. So would you want to keep him just to have him as an option in certain matches? I know Darkrow was a big fan. He liked when Ruben Nistelrooy played Casemiro and Ugarte together. Obviously, we know Casemiro's legs are gone, so he's not going to be doing any tracking back and recovery runs. In the final third, though, he can be effective, and I wish that there was a way you could do like pinch hitting on set pieces on free kicks, because he always seems to pop up on a free kick. Danny says, give us Wesley Franca and Pablo Lucia or Everton Araujo. Danny's all over the South American market. If you guys ever want to know about South American players, Danny's the one to talk to. Yeah, we were linked with Wesley Franca over the weekend, the Flamengo right back. I want to say he's like 21, 22-ish. I can't remember off the top of my head. Araujo is a big CDM. Yeah, we have a lot. So we've got like Ugarte, we've got Collier coming through. Obviously, I think Collier is probably right. For me, he would probably be 3rd choice midfielder right now in that pivot. I think that he's shown me enough that I think he deserves a little bit more time. Not time like I'm impatient, but he maybe more minutes is the best way to phrase that. I think he has shown a footballing IQ, a reading of the game, positional sense, and he's got an attitude, like a good positive mentality. He's always trying to get involved. He's always trying to get on the ball. He seems to know where danger is coming from and where to position himself. And those are invaluable for a young player. So I like what I see from Collier. Maybe if we had to turn to a youngster for depth, who would you guys maybe promote from the youth ranks in terms of a midfield depth, offering them maybe something a little more, maybe Fletcher or something? Darkrow says we need two CDMs. Yeah, we need some help in midfield for sure. And it's not just like depth, it's just its profile. In Amorim's system, the pivot is not just, it's not like it was in a 4-2-3-1 where you've got one who kind of sits deep and one who's a little bit more adventurous. Both of these players in the six have to be able to do both. Again, they're more like the old school 4-4-2 midfielders. You have to be able to do both. You have to have energy, you have to have legs. You got to be able to offer a little bit on and off the ball. It's no more just you're a 6, you're an 8, you're a 10. You have to be able to do a little bit of everything. Even the 10s in Amorim's system, you have to be able to get wide, you have to be able to drop deep, you have to be press resistant, you have to be good on the ball. The system demands a little bit more well-roundedness from everybody in the formation. And for too long, I think that maybe this is just football in general, that players have just been kind of shoehorned into and typecast a little bit. I guess shoehorn is not the right typecast into a certain role, which almost excludes them altogether from other responsibilities. Because I'm a 6, I'm not doing that, or I'm a 10, I'm not doing that. I'm not saying the players are doing it. I think that we, as football fans and media and stuff, have kind of created that a little bit. Danny wants Fitzgerald. Yeah, Fitzgerald's one. Fletcher probably the one that I like. I think Fletcher offers, for me, I like the look of Fletcher in terms of, here again, he reminds me of one of those, the playmakers, the one who's going to drop deep, he wants to get on the ball, who's going to get up, scan, and move it, keep things ticking. He's like a Busquets, he's like a Carrick, he's like when a De Jong, a João Neves, kind of like, he's always on the ball, and then he gets forward too, as well. I really, really like Fletcher a lot. Darko says, so you mean both CDMs and Amorim system have to be box to box? I'm saying I might not even call them CDMs, Darko. And again, I think that we just need to call them midfielders, because they're there to offer protection for the defense, because the wingbacks really shouldn't be so deep, but they also need to be good on the ball. They need to be able to progress the ball. They need to offer passing outlets for the wingbacks, for the defense, for the 10s and stuff. They need to do more than just what we've seen from like CDMs over the years, if that makes sense. But again, I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just saying this is what it is. Like with the two 10s kind of being a little bit more free roaming and stuff, the two midfielders need to have a little bit more legs. And Amorim said it itself. The position does require a lot of tracking back, and that's why he said he moved Cobby a little more advanced, so he wouldn't have to worry so much about tracking back and whatnot. He wants what he brings a little higher up the pitch, and so I think you want to, like, if you look at the way Sporting play, you've got Hillman, and then you've got I think the Japanese midfielder. Hillman does a little bit of everything, so does that Japanese midfielder. I forget his name, so apologies. You have to be able to do a little of both. You can't just be I'm gonna win the ball and stuff. Like, you have to be able to do both. And so Ugarte, and while the playmaking, the passing range isn't Ugarte's strength, that's not to say he's been bad, because if you look at a lot of his matches, his passes into the final third, his pass completion is actually very, very, very good. Ugarte is in the top 11% for pass completion right now among midfielders in the top 5 leagues, and so he's not bad. I do think it's an area that he could be better at, but he's never had to do that. Like, the systems that Ugarte's played have not been this kind of system. So remember, he was only playing for a year under Amorim before he went to PSG, and PSG played a very different system. And so Danny says Morata. Morata who? Let me know what you're talking about. So yeah, Casemiro could be there. We're looking at maybe youngsters. Sticking with midfield for a second, we discussed reports this past week linking us with an interest in Douglas Luiz, who's now at Juventus after leaving Aston Villa. Supposedly, remember, we wanted a loan with an option to buy, but Juve turned it down. Now, Tuttosport are claiming that there's a possibility that Douglas Luiz could actually join us in the summer, with long reported Juventus target Joshua Zirkzee going the other way to reunite with Thiago Motta. That's who it was, Morata. Yeah, I thought it was like, is it Morata or is it Merida? I can't remember now off the top of my head. But yeah, that's who I was thinking of. I couldn't remember his name. So yeah, potentially kind of a swap-ish deal. Let's say swap-ish, because when there's players switching clubs and going to the same clubs, they always call it a swap. It's not really a swap. It would be, that's what's really important. Now again, Tuttosport is pretty Juventus-centric, so again, take this with a grain of salt, but it's in the news. We want to discuss it. Would you be happy with that hypothetical deal, Zirkzee leaving? Now, we just signed Zirkzee. We don't really have a whole lot of quality and depth right now when it comes to the developmental stuff when it comes to 9. Can we afford to lose a 9? Maybe if we're targeting a 9 like Gyökeres, perhaps that could be an option. Would you want Douglas Luiz? You guys know I love Douglas Luiz. His injuries since joining Juve have been a bit of a worry. Are you already over Xerxes? Would you give him another season? Box, welcome, my friend. How are you this morning? Good to see you. We're just talking a little transfer news right now. So would you be happy with the Douglas Luiz Xerxes kind of swap? Do you not have faith in Xerxes? Again, will Xerxes be the answer? Will he ever be the answer to our goal scoring issues? Do you ever see him as someone who you could look to change a game? Personally, I see Xerxes more as a McTominay type player. I think that the way I've watched him play lately, he literally reminds me exactly of McTominay. The way he's built, the way he plays, his limitations, his strengths. He reminds me exactly like almost to the T of McTominay. Again, go watch that last match. He looks exactly. It reminds me. Box says he'd give Højlund and Xerxes another year. Danny says, yes, do it. Yeah, I like Douglas Luiz a lot. He's a good age. He brings experience to midfield. He's played in the Premier League. He's the profile player that I like. Again, I think I'm just having a little bit of hesitant when it comes to the injury-prone players. Just because what we've seen, I don't have faith in our medical staff. We've had too many injury-prone players, whether that's been Martial, Phil Jones, Luke Shaw, Mason Mount. I'm just done with injury-prone players at United. I can't handle it anymore. It's getting really, really frustrating. Mad Hatter, welcome back. Says Timo Holland is the one that needs to go. Give Xerxes more time like they did with Fraud Holland. So it sounds like Mad Hatter is not a Rasmus Højlund fan. Danny says, let Rasmus be back up to Gyökeres. And that's probably where I'm at right now, Danny, because you remember, and I've said it many times, you guys are probably tired of hearing me say it, but Højlund was never meant to be our number 9, like our starting number 9. He wasn't that at Atalanta. It was by pure injury crisis that he was kind of forced into that. He's not a hold-up striker, so we keep playing him that way. It's not working. He's not supposed to be leading the line. He just turned 22 like a week ago. You typically don't see 20, 21, 22-year-olds leading the line, being the main striker for any club. If they are, it's because they are absolute outlier, like robot alien strikers, like when Haaland was at Dortmund and whatnot. Normally, it doesn't happen. We need someone with experience, someone Rasmus can learn from, ask questions and things. Gyökeres, honestly, would be, if we got Gyökeres, Højlund, I think Højlund, really, we should be playing Højlund the same way that Sporting Amorim used Gyökeres, running off the shoulder of defenders, running into the space, but we're playing him as a hold-up, which is so weird to me. We saw it against Leicester, what can happen. We saw glimpses and reminders of what Højlund can do, like we did under Ruud, when he's given room to run, when we play a little bit more fast-paced, when the ball is progressing through the middle of the pitch, what he can do. And he almost scored a beautiful backheel flick off that squared pass from Garnacho. It was unfortunate it got blocked, but thankfully Xerxes was there to kind of stab that home. But yeah, Danny, I'm right there with you. Box says, I play a Bayendir, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Yoro, Ahmad, Ugarte, Collier, Garnacho, Xerxes, Fernandez, Højlund 11 attack. Yeah, I think Xerxes is probably going to be in that one of those number 10 roles for us. I don't like him leading the line personally. But let me know what you guys think about Douglas Luiz. The FA Cup 5th round draw takes place today. I think there's Palace, Doncaster games going on today. So we will learn our opponents in the next round as we continue our defense of the trophy. I think we are ball number 1 in the draw. So who do you guys want next round? I think as far as Premier League competition goes, there's Villa, Newcastle, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton, City, Ipswich, Fulham are all still in it. Forest, I think, could potentially be in it. So I think that Cardiff, Burnley, today is going to be either Doncaster or Palace, Exeter or Forest, Millwall, Preston. These are all the teams that are still in it right now. Despite who we draw in the next round, though, or how our FA Cup campaign turns out, it doesn't seem like Ruben Amorim will look to the trophy as a measuring stick of progress. This is what he had to say recently. He says, we are trying everything to improve the team without... Oh, sorry, this is the wrong slide. Did I not... hold on a second. Let me make sure I have the right slide going here. I might have done that one. Oh, you know what? I put it on this one. I didn't put it on the other one. Hold on. I'll read it to you. Here we go. So he said, I'm not going to be able to put it on the screen. It didn't translate. So he says, I cannot focus just on saving the season with the momentum of the FA Cup. That's not the way I see football. It's not the way I see Manchester United. So he doesn't look to the FA Cup as like, cool, we finished bottom half of the table, but we got an FA Cup, so it was a decent season. No, he's not looking at it that way. He says that's not the way Manchester United should be looking at it. So again, standards is what we're seeing here from Amorim. None of that Ten Hag talk. Now, I still love the FA Cup. I still love domestic competition, so I'm not going to write it off. I'm not saying Amorim is writing it off, but Amorim sounds like he's setting his standards a little bit higher. Box wants Millwall. Mad Hatter wants Millwall. Boxes will be a 2004 repeat of the final. Yeah. Danny says, take a note, Eric Ten Hag. Hey, FA Cup is the FA Cup. Carabao Cup is the Carabao Cup. I mean, Ten Hag did more in his 2 years than Arteta's done in like 6 years. And so we get to use that over Arteta all the time. So, you know who aren't in the FA Cup draw, though? Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, and Liverpool, who couldn't even score against bottom of the championship Plymouth. They couldn't score with Jota, Diaz, Chiesa, Darwin Nunez no one can score Darwin Nunez on the pitch. But Arne Slot's out here trying to claim that didn't play their first teamers. We need to keep the first team ready. We need to rotate. Okay, Arnie, we believe you. That team, literally any one of those players was probably getting paid more than the entire Plymouth bench or entire Plymouth starting 11. Like, come on. Liverpool trying to excuse themselves. Mad Hatter says the FA Cup is the only cup competition I still get excited for. I love the FA Cup, man. I love the domestic cups. I love FA Cup weekend. I love it. I love it. Love it. I was telling Dylan the other day we were watching the Leicester match. It reminds me of like bowl week in college football. Like there's that kind of community, that kind of just grassroots kind of feel to it. I love it. I love that a lot of these matches over the weekend were at the smaller clubs, because I do think it's a big help for those smaller clubs as well. I love it, and this weekend is exactly why we love it. When you see Liverpool get knocked out by Plymouth, like that's how can you not get, if you can't get excited, if you can't like find that like exciting, interesting, then I don't know what to tell you, but that's awesome. Danny says 100. And Daniel, if you guys know I'm a savage when it comes to Liverpool, I don't care. I don't care if they win the league. I'm taking every chance. Mad Hatter says, if City gets eliminated, the FA Cup is definitely ours. Well, we still have Newcastle, Brighton, Wolves, Bournemouth, and Villa, all of whom have, handled us recently. So I wouldn't necessarily call it an automatic. And those are City. If City were in it, Mad Hatter, I feel like we'd have a better chance if we played City, because we seem to turn up against those sides. It's these other sides, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's the other sides like the Bournemouths, the Wolves, the Newcastles, the Villas that we always tend to struggle with. Those physical sides. Box says the big teams bar City are out, but a lot of those dodgy teams like Fulham, Palace, Brighton, Bournemouth, yeah, those ones always they always kill us, man. They always kill us. House and Jay, what's going on there, Danny? House and Bournemouth Center. Yeah, we had spoken about that earlier. Box, that we were linked with that. Matt Hatter says, I have blinders on as to how good Newcastle and Villa have become in recent years. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I think within like Bournemouth, I think that a lot of it has been their manager. I do think Andoni Iraola is a really good manager. I think he's done a lot to turn that side around. They're doing better than they ever did on Eddie Howe. I don't know how Eddie Howe is doing it. Really, it's just Isak that's doing an amazing job. I say Anthony Gordon helps a bit, but that dude spends more time rolling around on the ground. Jay in the chat, did you say something earlier? I didn't see you anywhere up there. Good to see you, Jay. Box says, I hope City get Newcastle, Forest get Villa, Fulham get Brighton, Wolves get Palace. I would love an easy draw. You guys know that when it comes to cup competitions, I am completely shameless. I don't care. I'm not one of these guys who's like, give me the best. I want to beat the best. I want to prove, like, I don't care. If we did Champions League, I don't want to run like Real Madrid have had the last couple of years where they've had to play a lot of tough teams. I mean, Real Madrid always seem to get Man City. I want the easiest. Give me Midtjylland in the Europa League. Give me Millwall or Plymouth or whatever in the next round. I don't care. Matt Hatter says, Isak is a modern Henry. Yeah, he's definitely one. Isak would be the striker right now if I'm like throw a bunch of money at a striker, like if you had, if I would just go, I would love Isak. I think he fits the system perfectly. He's a good age. He's obviously very good. I think he's too good for Newcastle because I don't see Newcastle winning any trophies, and I think that Isak is now getting to a point where he needs to be getting trophies. I could easily see him going someplace like a bigger club in the future, maybe like Bayern, Barcelona, or something, even Real Madrid, maybe. But obviously, Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid are actually skint right now. Barcelona skint too, but I could easily see him making the step up. Even like if Haaland leaves City and City don't get in trouble, which we'll see what happens there. But I think he's too good for Arsenal, to be honest. I think Arsenal just can't do it. Box says Isak a bit like Ibra. Yeah, I love watching Isak play. Matt Hatter says he's got that 2000s type player. Yeah, when Justin and I were in Manchester last month, before the Salford game, we had a little bit of time to chill, so we just found this boozer downtown, and they had the Newcastle game on. I think it was Newcastle Bournemouth, and we were watching that one. But yeah, I love watching Isak. He does remind me of that old school kind of Henri type, just that movement, the way he carries himself. I think he would fit perfectly at United in the way we play, personally. Box says Sweden have no excuses not to qualify now with striker partnership Isak Gyökeres. Yeah, Sweden have Gyökeres, Isak. Honestly, right now I could flip a coin, take either. I think that the only thing that pushes it for me right now is Gyökeres' familiarity with Amorim and the system. But then Isak is also Premier League. Although Gyökeres did do really well in the Championship with Coventry, so maybe that does it. Danny says no one could afford him. Yeah, the next you'd have to. It's going to take a lot to get him out of Newcastle, both in wages and in fee. So it's a pipe dream. I think Gyökeres is probably the way to go. I don't even know how much money is Gyökeres on right now at Sporting. Let me check and see. He's only Gyökeres is literally not even on 50K a week right now at Sporting. Yeah, that's the one to do. What's Isak's wages at Newcastle? Let me check that, Bad Jackson. Yeah, Isak is literally on almost 3 times as much a week as Gyökeres. Yeah, I'm gonna go Gyökeres. Steven, welcome to the channel. Sancho is shite. Chelsea can have him. Yeah, I'm kind of over Sancho. Obviously, we did begin the show talking about that. Get your thoughts on that. Sancho to me is just once again, this is what you do with people. Sometimes you don't have to engage with them. You don't have to argue. You just sit back and let them kind of dig themselves a hole, right? It's the wise man who has thought of it's better to be silent and thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt, right? So let Sancho continue to play his little games on social media, continue to try to take shots and throw shade at people like he did with Dortmund, Ten Hag, and now like he's doing with United again. Let him do his thing. We don't have to engage. We don't have to do anything. So, but welcome to the channel, Steven. Box says, yeah, 45K. Yeah, Gyökeres is not. Yeah, Gyökeres is the way to go for sure. Matt Hatter says, funny enough, the first ever PL game I saw was Villa Newcastle 19 years ago here and on American TV. Interesting. Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of access growing up here in America unless you were super rich, and that was only around like the early mid 2000s when satellite, direct TV, all that stuff on demand was a thing. When I grew up, it was VHS tapes and stuff if I got lucky, kind of thing. And I've been playing since I was 5, but yeah, I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it, unfortunately, until much later. And then when I did, it was always like 6 months later because we were just using VHS tapes. Box says, Sancho let the Man United fans down. Sancho's problem is that he can't handle the Premier League, and he's deflecting blame on everything else for why he can't handle. All you got to do is just look at yourself and say, maybe the Premier League's not for me. And that's it. He would probably do fine in La Liga. He'd probably go back to the Bundesliga, do just fine. He can't hang in the Premier League. And after a bit of a bright spark at Chelsea, Chelsea fans are already going in on him now. Chelsea fans are super quiet. Box says, for all the Pogba, Maguire, Sanchez, et cetera, I think the longer it goes on, Sancho is the worst deal we've ever done. I mean, I think Anthony's probably got something to say about that. Yeah, both are about the same total fee. Obviously, we don't pay that much, but Sancho's wages really are what kicks it. But Mad Hatter says, Fox Soccer Channel for the win. Yeah, I do remember Fox Soccer. Yeah, man, wow. It takes me back a long time ago. Yeah, I had some friends who were a little more well off, and so sometimes I'd go over to their house and we would watch some stuff later on after school. But that was about it. Danny says, yeah, worse deal than Anthony. I think Box, at least Anthony held his position for a while. Yeah, it's a toss up. Maybe we'll end on that note. We'll do a poll. Oh, hold on. Let me Oh, never mind. I don't know how to do that. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there because there's not a whole lot of news, but you guys know I like to stop by and get your thoughts on everything. So if you weren't able to catch the live, leave a comment with some of your thoughts. You guys know I'll respond to them. Like the video, please, if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are on the road to 3K and we are cruising. Go check out some of the recent videos. Obviously, we talked a little bit about center backs. That link is in the description. I talked yesterday about steps I think that Amorim could take to save something from our season. So go check that one out as well. I'll pop back later on this week to discuss the latest and greatest news. Probably talk a little bit about the draw when that happens. So until then, thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. Hopefully you guys weren't up too late. Asif says, does Nypan fit Ruben's system? I think he can, but I think I just like him a lot. I think we find a way to make it work. I think in one of the 10s, potentially in a deeper role if we needed him to, depending, I think it could work. But thank you for stopping by, Asif. We are heading out though. So until then, enjoy your day, everybody. Cheers, Danny. Good to see everybody. Box, Danny, Hatter, Steven, welcome to the channel as well. Darker, I know I saw you up there. Take it easy, guys. Enjoy your day, and I will talk to you on the next one. Later.